happy Valentine's Day. February the 14th, the day of love. As you all know by now, I don't have a significant other right now. But I thought it would be a good topic to cover anyway. And I also thought that seeing as the live fell on a Friday, it would feel a bit weird to talk about something else other than Valentine's Day. So when I was planning the content for this, I had the intention that this week or like last week, I was going to have gone speed dating. My plan was that I was going to go, and because I'd have like 4-minute dates with a lot of different guys, I was going to either have planned different ways to tell them about my lifestyle and about zero waste living, or I was going to go for the same way of talking to all of them and then come back and feed back to you in terms of what I found, what was received well, all of these sorts of things. However, the thought of dating was just horrific, so I've realised I am not ready to date right now. And as much as I love you guys, I'm not going to go on a date with a guy that I don't want to go on a date with if I'm not in the place to do so, because it's not fair on me, it's not fair on them, so I scrapped that idea. I am going to, well, I'm planning to mark Valentine's Day solo or in some form. So I found a dance class that I'd like to go to, so I'll either go tonight, but it is raining right now, so maybe I'll stay in and drink wine instead and go next week. But I still wanted to do something, like I just wanted to do something on my own. So do let me know if you are either celebrating with somebody else or celebrating by yourself and you're going to go down the experience route as well, like I am, rather than buying something, I'm going to go and do something. But I'm also really interested to just hear how you are celebrating, if you decide to celebrate, whether it's your thing, whether it's not your thing. Yeah, just tell me what you're doing in terms of like zero waste Valentines or low waste Valentines, and what kind of traditions you have with your partner or with yourself to mark today. So yeah, like I said, I am not dating right now. But the thing that I wanted to focus on during this live was the idea that in order to, well, when I get to the place where I want to meet new people, if I get there, or even just when I meet people every single day, when I'm at events, when I'm yeah, just generally out and about and having a chat with people, I obviously have to tell people about my strange lifestyle and about how I live, and the reason why and the struggles and successes I have. Now I am now very, very comfortable in discussing that with people I've never met before, and I now am at a place where I feel like it's almost my duty in a way to share my lifestyle and to say, like, I'm an example of an extreme lifestyle. You do not have to be as extreme as I am to make a difference, but I like to be able to say, take as much inspiration from what I do as you need, and every little thing that you do is making a difference. Like, that is something that I love to be able to share with people. So what I am going to cover today is basically 5 little tips for when you are having to share with somebody new about your lifestyle habits. And yep, I'm coming at this from a zero waste angle, but maybe you have a slightly different lifestyle preference. Maybe you do it in a more extreme degree than I do, less so. But for whatever reason, you need to get something about your lifestyle quite out in the open early on. So I've already said that I've not been out on dates, not gone out into the real world for dates yet, but I have downloaded some dating apps, which I've now deleted because I came to the realization I'm just not ready to date, and it's just not fair on myself and it's not fair on the guys I'm chatting to. So I have deleted those apps. But what I did notice was when I was talking to people, questions would come up about my lifestyle. And like I said, I'm very happy in talking about it, and you know, it's me through and through. Like, it's what I do every day, it's my job, so naturally I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to want to talk about it. But questions would come up like, oh, I need to ask you early on, are you vegan? And I'd be like, oh, I don't like the way you're asking that, because you're making it seem like this is a deal breaker. And in a way, my choices shouldn't matter to you, like, as in, you should be able to respect what I'm doing, and likewise with you, we should be able to take inspiration from each other, but not feel like we have to change each other before we've even met. But anyway, that's a side story. And then other guys would like ask questions like, oh, where's your dream place to go on holiday? And I'd be like, oh, anywhere where I don't have to go on a plane and use CO2. I was like, I'm just being honest, I'm not gonna lie to you and be like, oh, I want to go to Bali, and which I'm sure is lovely, but I'd be too grappled with the guilt of the CO2 to go. So anyway, yeah, online dating wasn't really my thing. I've got myself off there. So I'm going to go into the 5 suggestions I have around sharing with a new person about your extreme lifestyle. So sharing with somebody new that you are zero waste, and what I recommend saying and doing in that situation. So my number one, and this is my number one with anybody, family, friends, stranger, is to lead by your actions rather than your words. So it's far easier to have more authentic conversations if they're able to see that you really are living your lifestyle, rather than just sort of saying, I live like this, or I'd like to live like this, or even if you already are living zero waste or you're on your journey, it's far more authentic for you to be able to say, oh, I've brought my own cutlery because I don't want to use single-use items, or I'm going to say no to a straw at the bar because I don't want to have, I don't want it to be an item that can't be recycled. Whatever it might be, like, oh, I can't forget my water bottle, I'm trying to cut down on my waste. All of these sorts of things, you're showing that you are embodying your habits rather than you are trying to preach to somebody else. And that is especially helpful if the other person doesn't know about zero waste living. And obviously if they have never come across the zero waste lifestyle, or never researched the facts around waste and decomposing, it's not their fault at all that they don't know about the lifestyle habits that you have. So therefore, by leading with your actions rather than your words, it comes across much more authentically, and it's also something that the other person is able to envision and see what it means to live zero waste, rather than you just saying like, oh, I live this lifestyle. You're actually able to say, this is what this lifestyle means, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so the next one is be open to questions. So people love asking things like, what's the hardest thing when you're zero waste? Or how do you do your food shopping? How do you do your clothes shopping? All of these sorts of things come to mind when you tell people that you don't throw stuff in the bin. And you know, some of the questions you'll have already been asked before and you'll have like a go-to answer, but some other things you'll be like, oh, I've never been asked that before. And just be really genuine when you're answering them, and talk about the struggles and the successes as well, because I think that makes it really relatable. So maybe if they're asking things about your diet, or yeah, your travel options, what you do for buying new clothes, you can say things like, oh, well, at the moment I'm doing this, I used to do that. Just show that you're really genuine and that you are making your best efforts, because then that makes it less alienating for the other person who maybe doesn't know about zero waste living at all, maybe doesn't get their head around it. And it's a nice kind of introduction into the fact that zero waste living doesn't have to be all or nothing. people can transition into lifestyle at the rate that they need to. And people like myself who have been living zero waste for 3 years still have progress that they can be making, and they've still got a journey ahead of them. So my next one then is about having standards and keeping those standards. So if you're already sort of showing in your actions about how you live zero waste and what that looks like in a dating scenario, in a friendship scenario, whatever it is that you're meeting this new person, whatever context you're meeting this new person in, and then you've started some kind of conversation about how you live and why you live the way you do, have standards and stick to those. So if you know, for instance, that going to a certain bar, going to a certain restaurant is going to generate waste that you won't feel comfortable about, say that. If you know that certain questions you're not comfortable with answering, say that. Like, you're within your own rights to just answer whatever you want and whatever you don't about your lifestyle choices. And don't feel like you need to change for somebody else, but explain that reasoning as well. So explain why it matters to you so much. Maybe it might be a good time to talk about why you started your lifestyle change, because quite often it's to do with like facts and figures that you heard, or that's how I started, or maybe it could be to do with health benefits, anything that you've sort of seen, or maybe it was somebody else that inspired you, a film, a book. Share that with them and then say, it matters to me so much to keep up this lifestyle because of these reasons, because this is why I started my journey. Having said that, so we just talked about standards and how great it is to put your boundaries in place and stick to those. Also, have a little bit of grace with yourself and the other person, because if you are in a new scenario, you may well create waste that you weren't intending to create. So you may end up at that bar and they're serving straws and you didn't know, or you didn't get your reusable straw out in time, or whatever it is. Somebody else picks a date for you and they don't know about your dietary requirements, they don't know about your lifestyle, so therefore you end up somewhere where maybe you didn't pick. Just approach it with sometimes that sort of stuff happens, because whatever situation you end up in like that, just remember it's such a brilliant way to have a genuine conversation about zero waste living, about sustainability, about your choices, about the environment, and it's in a really like tangible way where you're able to say, oh, normally I wouldn't come somewhere like this because of this, or normally I would have actually packed something so that I didn't have to create this waste. And then you're almost saying like, oh, I'm learning from this mistake right now. Maybe it's not even a mistake. Maybe you don't even want to view it as that. You want to view it as more of a, a learning experience. But if you're able to voice that to the other person and say, oh, typically I wouldn't actually do this because of X, Y, and Z, then you're just giving yourself a bit more grace, not embarrassing the other person by saying, you made me create waste when I don't normally, and just making it a little bit lighter and learning from the experience for next time, so you know where to go, so you know the conversations to have in the future. And then the final one, this might happen in a dating scenario. It may actually more likely happen if you're having a conversation about zero waste living with friends or family. You may well get some resistance around your lifestyle choices. A perfect example is veganism, and how often in the media people seem to say awful things about vegans, and if we're to really look at the reasoning behind that and some of the angst that zero wasters get as well when they make certain choices around using reusable products, and people think that maybe that's not as hygienic, maybe feminine products, just for an example. Quite often the people who seem to hold these almost grudges or use unfair language towards people with an extreme lifestyle that they've adopted, it's essentially because, for whatever reason, if you're faced with somebody who's living this extreme lifestyle, who has all of these reasonings behind why they've chosen that lifestyle, it almost holds up a mirror to yourself to say, well, it's possible because this person is living this way and you're not living like that. So what's your reasoning for not changing your lifestyle habit? So what I would say is, if you ever get any resistance towards your lifestyle habits and that makes you feel a bit uncomfortable, that actually that resistance isn't ever personal. And I know it will seem really strange because you're like, yeah, but they're directing it at me and it's really hurtful. But actually what it's doing is it's saying a lot more about themselves and about their own decisions than it is about you and your own decisions. And you need to completely separate those two things and think, okay, they're actually having a little bit of internal conflict, and for whatever reason, with them learning about my lifestyle, my choices, that's actually bringing things up for them. And therefore they're feeling the need to vent at me, and that's making me really upset. But actually that person, likely they really admire your efforts and maybe they can't voice it, but for whatever reason your lifestyle choices are making them see the things that in their lifestyle they're doing that doesn't necessarily match up with what they believe to be true and their actions that they're taking to show what they really believe. So those are my tips with sharing about your lifestyle choices with somebody new. So like I said at the start, it may well be that you use these tips when you're in a dating situation, to kind of get the feelers out to see whether the other person is open-minded and supportive towards your lifestyle choices. I'm not for 1 minute saying that you need to go and convert them towards zero waste living. But I do think that when you have an extreme lifestyle choice like this, they need to be understanding of what comes along with that. And as understanding as they would be with any other sort of ethos that you hold and that you live every single day. It's just how it should be when you're in a partnership. But you can always also use those tips that I've shared to discuss your lifestyle habits with anybody. So maybe it's family members at a family gathering, maybe it's colleagues, maybe it is friends, whoever it might be, where you need to share about your slightly unusual lifestyle habits and the reasonings behind why you've chosen those lifestyle habits. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful Valentine evening, however you decide to celebrate, whether you are celebrating solo or whether you're celebrating with somebody else. I'm going to update you next week whether I decide to brave the rain and go to this dance class. I hope I do, because I want to go and do something fun. Speak to you next week. Have a fab week. Bye, guys.